What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Success Playbook Live. I am your host, Corey Hastings, and we'll be coming to you live each and every Tuesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern directly on this channel. And if you're new here tonight, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And thank you so much for being here. This is already episode 3, and I appreciate every single one of you who's been showing up, tuning in, and engaging each and every week, sending all of our information both to us on direct message, Instagram, all of those things. Thank you guys a lot. But if you're new here, this live stream is about real conversations around business, success, mindset, growth, leadership, and this is decisions that are actually relevant to building long-term success. For those of you guys joining for the first time, like I said before, my name is Corey Hastings. I'm a real estate broker and business owner based here in Northeast Florida. Over the last several years, I've built and led a luxury real estate organization, and this platform is just an extension of that, focusing on helping others really, truly achieve success, but also learn from my successes, but also my mistakes. Tonight, we're going to dive into a live Q&A from each and every one of you, so go ahead and start typing those questions into the chat so we can get to as many as possible tonight, whether it's a business-related question, real estate, personal growth, or just overall where you're at in your career. I want to help you in any way possible to achieve success as fast as possible. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. As always, I want to know where each and every one of you guys are watching from. So comment where you're watching from, the city you're located in. I am coming to you live from Jacksonville, Florida, and I am so excited to be here tonight. And just in the past week since we last met, so much has changed and so much has happened. So I want to tell you a little bit about that first before we dive into the chat. I told you guys last week that after Tuesday night, we were getting in the car at 8 a.m. the next morning, and we were driving over to Santa Rosa Beach on the west coast of Florida to really film and start this Success Playbook podcast with my close friend, Bo Blankenship. And it went absolutely amazing. So the whole entire concept of the 2 days we were with him was really filming a behind the scenes of us getting there, but also kind of getting in the day in the life of. We wanted to showcase what he does on a day-to-day basis, what actions and different things that he does that makes him successful, and what would a property tour or what would real estate be without any property tours, right? But we saw 3 amazing properties, one that was $8 million, one that was just under $9 million, and one that was $22 million that wasn't even finished yet directly on the ocean. We're going to try to have our behind the scenes footage and kind of a get to know Bo video up tomorrow on our YouTube channel. So please stay tuned for that. But the podcast was awesome. You know, obviously there was a lot of nerves into it. There was all this, what are we going to say? What are we going to ask for? And I do not think it could have went better. And I'm so excited for you guys to see it. Our goal is to drop that probably in 10 days or so directly on our YouTube channel. So please stay tuned for that. And also, I told you guys last week who our guest number 2 is going to be, and now we are going up there in about a week and a half, and that is nobody else other than my brother, Scotty Hastings, who is a singer-songwriter and recording artist located in Nashville, Tennessee, with Black River Entertainment. If you guys have never heard of Black River Entertainment, it is Kelsey Ballerini's label. So it is absolutely going to be incredible to get with him. And the entire concept of the behind the scenes for him is going to be, what is it like to truly be a recording artist in Nashville? So we're going to get the travel up there, obviously. Those are always good kind of tidbits in that. But also we're going to walk Broadway. We're gonna talk about country history, how he got found, what does Broadway mean to him, right? Because Broadway, if you guys have never been before, it is the strip of bars inside of Nashville. Every single bar, every single floor has live music, and the quotes always says that, you know, the best music in the world is on Broadway in Nashville, because a lot of those singers are the next big stars that just haven't been found yet. So he was once there. Want to find out his story. But also, we're trying to get behind the scenes and tour the Grand Ole Opry stage, which, if you guys know anything about country music, it is the absolute mecca of country music. He's been blessed to be on that stage 3 times now and kind of get to his understanding of what it means to him. But then we're going to tour a sound studio where he records music. What is it like to record music inside of Nashville? And then obviously we're going to sit down with the podcast with him the very next day, talk about how he's been able to be successful, the things he's overcome in his life, which, if you guys do not know my brother's story yet, Wait till he tells you this. He's a a Purple Heart recipient from the Army. He was shot over 10 times in Afghanistan, and coming from that, teaching himself guitar on YouTube, and just kind of the whole entire getting to understand the music industry. It is going to be awesome. So we are going up there the 26th, 27th, and 28th of January. We are hoping to release the behind the scenes probably about a week after that. And then we are going to drop the podcast probably in the middle of February. So yes, it'll all be on my channel. So like I said before, if you are new here, go ahead and subscribe, because not only are we here each and every Tuesday nights, but also we have so many other things coming up which we cannot wait for. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get to some questions. I know you guys have been sending them all inside of here already, which has been great. So let's go ahead and get into the first one. How have you seen the market shift since beginning of the year? I'm guessing this is the real estate market, and it has shifted a ton. So I don't know if you guys have saw the interest rates or not, but they are the lowest they've been in 2 years. They now have a 5 in front of them. So if you are looking to buy, or if you have been on the sidelines looking for property or whatever it is, now is your time. And we are seeing it absolutely just come off. Everybody is so busy right now. Buyers are back out. People are refinancing, all of these things, because let's not forget, 1 year ago, interest rates were in the 7s. Now they're in the 5s, which is a dramatic difference, because now we also have more inventory than we've had in a long time. And like I told you guys on our first one, it's a supply and demand industry, right? So typically one of the driving urgency factors of the supply and demand is interest rates. The lower they come down, typically the more demand goes up, which obviously the more demand, the less supply you'll have, which also drives prices up, so on and so forth. So it is becoming an amazing time to buy. I've already told you guys how I think 2026 is going to go. I know a lot of you guys have asked me to recap that, which we'll get to later tonight. So I will talk about the real estate market, both nationally, but especially here locally in Jacksonville. But we will get to that, I promise. But great first question. I think it has been an amazing start to the year. We have all, to give you an idea, we are about 13 days into the month, whatever today is. And we have already sold more in the month of January of 2026 than we did the entire month of 2025. So it's going to be a great month. I think 2026 is going to be an amazing year. I'll go into some factors and stuff like that later tonight when we get to it. But great first question. Next question. What do you think is harder, achieving success or maintaining it, and why? I've actually received this question quite a bit. And to be honest with you, I think achieving it. Because I'm a big firm believer that success does two things to you, right? It either, gets you complacent because you've already achieved what you were trying to, and a lot of people get distracted by outside things or becoming successful in their own mind or whatever else, and they kind of lose that hunger of what got them successful, right? So that's the first thing. It either gets you complacent or it makes you strive for more success because you're addicted to how you feel becoming successful, or the lifestyle it gives you, or the opportunity, or whatever else. But also, when you become successful, I really believe you now then have a target on your back, right? Because now your competitors in your marketplace see you as a real threat. Other people in your life see you as either an opportunity or a threat, depending on who you are. But I really believe that maintaining success over a long period of time is very difficult to do, and almost is kind of an art in a way, because to achieve long-term success, you have to pivot quickly, you have to adapt, you have to learn, you have to listen, you have to scale, you have to do all of these things that makes running a business or whatever opportunity that you're doing, it becomes very difficult, right? And so I think that's a fantastic question. Obviously, this is a success type of podcast or live stream channel, and we talk a lot about achieving success is great, right? We want to get there, but maintaining it is so hard because a lot of people will lose focus on the steps that got them there. I'm a huge Conor McGregor fan, right? And I love UFC. And, Dana White always talks about, well, why isn't Conor, he gets asked all the time, why isn't Conor as successful as he used to be, right? And Dana has the most perfect answer I've ever heard. He said, well, it's kind of hard to enjoy getting punched in the mouth when you're worth over $100 million, right? Conor McGregor is a great testament to that. Growing up, he was dirt poor. He was a plumber. He had all these things. And so he went so hard into the gym where that was his entire focus to get out of that lifestyle, right? Well, now he's on yachts and he's at the Met Gala and he's doing all of these things. So training to him really isn't as important. And that's probably why he has done some of the things he's done. He's lost some fights. He's done this and that, right? But I think the whole mindset of achieving success and then maintaining it is two completely different things. So that's a great question as we get on to here. Next question. What are my personal and professional goals this year? Great question. Great question. So obviously, as you guys, a lot of you guys know me. A lot of you guys, if maybe you don't know me yet, I am extremely goal-oriented. I think that goals are one thing that we all need to have. Both, we talked last week about short-term, medium, and long-term goals, right? We have to have them in order to achieve success because it gives us something to reach out to, gives us something to long for, right? Kind of a purpose in life in a way. And so my personal goals, I feel like this YouTube channel is very personal to me. So for me, this YouTube channel, some of our goals this year is we want to have at least 10 guests on the podcast, and we want to be able to grow our platform to over 25,000 subscribers. Right now, we're at about 10,500, which has been amazing. Thank you guys who have been on this 3.5 month journey with us, which is just kind of insane. That's already been that long, but it's been awesome. But the two things we really want to accomplish this year on the channel are we want to do 25,000 subscribers, and we want to do at least 10 podcasts with 10 successful guests. All different industries, all different genres of business, and all different people who are different successful in their own way. Professional goals as far as the brokerage goes, I'm going to talk about our 2025 numbers a little bit later on when we get into more of the real estate market. But our goal in 2026 is do over $1 billion in sales. And also, we want to get to our 6th office location, which is going to be in St. Augustine. So those are the two biggest things that we're really focused on, along with, obviously, a lot of small-term and medium goals to get us there. But those are really the biggest things as a brokerage that we're really trying to hit on, which I think is going to be great. Another great question here. How are you ensuring you create lasting value for the communities you do business in and not your professional portfolios? Well, I think the big thing for us is you have to be grounded in the community, right? And you have to kind of give back because your customers have to be your most important piece to your business, no matter what business you're in, right? Even if you're on online sales, if you're a chiropractor, if you run a CPA business, if you run a real estate business, whatever it may be, without your customer base, you don't even have a business. 90% of the time, if you are a small business, you are a local business, right? So your customers are the local community. And so you have to give back, you have to be involved, you have to do all these things. But for me, my local community is also my agents, right? Because we all live, work, and sell, in Jacksonville, in Northeast Florida, all these other places. So we have to be involved both in our church, our schools, our community, all these things. So I encourage you that if you are a business owner or if you're looking at becoming a business owner, look at the community that you're in, right? And what are ways you can give back, because that is one way that you can really build clients for life and being grounded in that, which is we talk about a lot. Next question. How do you stay collaborative in a competitive industry without losing your edge? That's a good question. Obviously I am a very fierce competitor. Everybody who knows me knows that I love competition, right? So I think for us, it's understanding who you're collaborating with. I think that I do a really good job trying to surround myself with very smart people. But even on a national scale, I read a ton when it comes into the real estate industry. I have some really good connections and peers that I look up to who have been in this industry way longer than I have, way more successful than I am, and I lean on them. And, I want to talk to them about what they're doing for recruiting. How is AI integrating to their business? What systems, processes, and tools are they doing to make them more successful or make their agents more successful, right? And on a local scale, I think obviously you have to have relationships, right? In a city like Jacksonville, 95% of the transactions are done with 5% of the agents. So you have to have that working relationship. And we all know from doing a lot of transactions and doing a lot of business together, kind of who are the ones that we want to do business with, right? But who are also the ones maybe we don't enjoy doing business with. And I think you just kind of have to know how you can go back and forth with that. But in any type of business, I think you have to be competitive. Now, there's a healthy competitive versus a, what behind someone's back competitive, which isn't always the best case. But there is a healthy competition where you want to maybe sell more than them. You want to maybe beat them on a listing or whatever it may be. So you're kind of just being able to balance that, which is a good point. Next question. Have you ever experienced burnout, and how do you recover your discipline? Yes. Yes, and yes. Yes, I have experienced burnout. And I think for me, it's not having, when the very first live stream we did, I talked about you as a business owner, you as a manager, you being as an entrepreneur, you have to find what gets you back to medium, right? Your equilibrium back down. Because no matter what field you're in, no matter what industry you're in, you're always going to have really, really great days, really, really bad days, really, really great days, really, really bad days. It's just the evolution of business. It's the evolution of people. It just is what it is. So I think for me, when I was younger, I worked so hard to go and accomplish these things, and maybe one thing would happen that would throw off my entire day, or maybe one thing would happen and I would be like, oh, this day is terrible, this week is done, whatever. So I think my mindset on being able to be accountable for not only my actions, but also my attitude has really helped with facing burnout, but also understanding you have to have this thing called work-life balance, which, we've talked about that before on this channel. And I think understanding kind of where you're at in your limits, every single one of us have different things that we can control, but a lot of things that we can't control, right? And so I think you have to understand where you're at mentally, where you're at emotionally. And if you're having a hard day, maybe it's time to leave the office for an hour. Go on a grateful walk. Go get a cup of coffee. Maybe get on the phone with one of your good friends or mentors and say, hey, man, I'm just not in it mentally today. Walk me through this, or talk me through this, or whatever it may be. Because if you are already in a bad state of mind, burnout is going to happen so much faster and so much more. So I encourage you that if you are feeling burnout, or if you're feeling something of that nature, more than likely it's your mindset. So fix your mindset first, and you will have better a long-term relationship when it comes to burnout versus success and all of those other things. If success had a first chapter, what would it look like? It's a good question. I think if success had a first chapter, I think the first thing it would be is, what do you want to accomplish, right? What are we working towards? How do we define success? Because how can we accomplish to be successful if we have no idea what accomplishing this feat means, or it matters, or whatever else, right? We have to define what we're working to and what we're working on. So I think the first chapter of success would be how do you define it, and what do you want to do, right? Those two things are really important. And I will say, one of the big questions we are going to ask on our podcast, each and every guest, is how they define success, because that's going to be 10 different guests, 10 different answers, right? And I think it is fascinating. The more successful that you are, your definition 1,000% changes, which is a really good point. We're going to get to that on the podcast. Next question. How have you edited your success playbook when life throws unexpected challenges your way? So I think, good question. I think for me, whenever I was a younger broker, or whenever I was just younger in age, I think when things would go unexpectedly, I think it would really throw me off, to be honest. And because it wasn't what I was planning for. It wasn't what I was expecting. Wasn't what, all of these things, right? So I think for me, as I get older and as I mature and as I kind of go through these ups and downs of business and all these other things, I think you have to understand that there's a lot more in this industry or in life that you can't control, but but at the same exact time, you always can control how you relate to it and how you focus on it, but also how you react to it, right? And if you're somebody who is, always emotional and over doing this and overdoing that and yelling at people and all this, you're never going to be successful, right? You have to keep that mindset of collaboration, of people around you, success, all of that. Because for you and anybody in life, life is never going to be fair, right? I don't care what field you're in. I don't care what type of life you have. There's always things that are going to be against you. And it's how you react to them more than anything that is going to be how you ever have lasting success, which is really important. But good question. Next question. What's one lesson you learned the hard way now that has a permanent place in your success playbook? I think for me, one of the hardest lessons I've ever learned is what I told you guys on the first podcast, or on the first live stream. As a business owner, nobody will ever care as much about your business, and only you can really be the one who is going to be all in on it, right? Now, you may have great employees, and they may really, really care about their role, and they may really, really care about you and the company and all these things, right? But guess who's going to be more than likely answering the phone at 7 p.m. on Saturday night when everybody else is either out to dinner or whatever else? You as the business owner. Guess who everybody's going to turn to when everything hits the fan? You as the business owner. And it's that mindset, I think, that really separates successful salespeople or successful operators versus great entrepreneurs. Great entrepreneurs understand that they are their company. Now, amazing entrepreneurs can learn how to delegate and do all those things we've talked about when we're talking about scaling, right? Which is very important as well. But you as the business owner, you as the owner of the company, you have to care the most. And I think your customers, but also your employees have to feel that you care the most. Because if you're 1 foot out the door and really not that involved and really don't care or whatever it may be, it's going to trickle down all the way down to your organization. And so I think that's one lesson that I not necessarily learned the hard way, but I think it was hard for me to understand, being in this industry and everything else from there. But good question. How important is it to be on time at 7 p.m. for a 7 p.m. live cast? Good question. It is very important because we are always going to start really, really close to 7 to make sure that everybody has time to come in. But good question. What's the most unconventional or surprising strategy in your playbook that actually works? I don't really think I have any unconventional ways. I think the biggest thing is treat people how you want to be treated. It sounds very cliche, but in leadership, everybody on this stream right now has had a bad boss, or maybe you currently have a bad boss, or maybe, you are that bad boss. Who knows? But if you really want to have long-term success and you really want to grow either both in management, if you want to open your own company, if you want to be a CEO, if you want to be truly successful in business, you have to treat others with respect, integrity, and all the right things. Because if you start burning bridges or talking down to people or whatever it may be, it may not come back on you in the immediate term, but I can promise you it'll come back to you long term. And you do not want those things. And so I think for me, as I grow as a leader, I'm trying to listen as much as possible. I'm trying to encourage as much as possible. I'm trying to empower my employees to do and give them opportunity to grow into what they do really well, right? I think a bad leader not only treats people poorly, but also doesn't listen to their team, doesn't really give opportunity. And then you have turnover right and left when it comes to your team or your staff or whatever it may be. So I think it's not necessarily unconventional. I think it's just, it's very important to treat people how you want to be treated, but also with integrity and all those good things. But good question there. Love to see my Cincinnati guys, Nashville, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Tampa. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's great to see you guys in the chat. Please continue to send in your questions. We're going to do a lot of Q&A today. I'm going to try and get as much as I possibly can as we go forward. Next good question here. What's a belief about success you inherited that might need to rewrite your own playbook? I think that as you become more successful, I think your definition of success needs to change, right? Because most people set out, like I told you guys originally, when we first originally opened my brokerage back in 2018, all I wanted to accomplish was doing $300 million in production, right? I just wanted to say, hey, I didn't really think I could accomplish it. I thought it was going to take us 3 years, right? And being that we did it in like 12 to 18 months, we have to change what then was success to us. And I think that's one of the more important lessons that a lot of people have. And I told you guys just a second ago, success is two things too, right? Does it complacent or make you strive for more success? I think people who are built in a way that they're striving for more, you're always going to kind of change how success is defined, right? Because success at 21 is completely different than success at 35. And now if you have a family, kids, or whatever it may be, right? So you have to understand and you have to pivot, but also that's why goals are so important, because now we're reworking goals every single year. We're looking at things differently, more opportunities. Can I grow here? Can I bring this person on? Whatever it may be, but you have to kind of rewrite your own success. And I think that's sometimes the biggest lesson for entrepreneurs to have, is because entrepreneurs, start out and you open this business, you open this brand or whatever it may be, and you accomplish something. Some people kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit, right? And that's the worst thing you can do. That's that complacency side of success. And I think we have to strive for more goals. And that's why I will say, Goal planning each and every year, either as your team, your upper management, or just yourself, right? We talked about having a why and why is that so important that you're working towards, but also goal planning. Each and every one of you should be goal planning each and every year, especially this time of year, right? It's a brand new year. We're only a couple weeks into the calendar. We have, 11 and a half months of runway to go and accomplish something great in 2026. So if you have not sat down with either your upper management or your management team or your employees or whoever and really looked at what do we want to accomplish in 2026, right? Because your views on success may be completely different from theirs. And if you guys are going to work together and be successful, you have to align in a very on the same exact page way, which is good. But good question there. Let's go back to the next question. What's one success you rarely celebrate, even if it helps shape you who you are today? That's a good question. I think for me, one of the biggest things that I really pride myself on is my fitness. I'm in the gym 4 days a week at least. And I think for me, I need it mentally, right? We talk about mindset all the time, but I probably don't give myself as much credit for being so disciplined when it comes to the gym or being active, because for me, it's just second nature. Like if I'm on vacation and I'm not in it, or if I'm traveling a lot or whatever it may be, and I'm not working out for 3 to 4 days in a row, I become a whole different person, and not a good way, right? So I need to work out. I need to get that stress relief. I need to bring my equilibrium back down to neutral. And that is always something that's been inside of me every single way. And I probably don't give myself enough credit for it, but it is awesome because, and challenge each and every one of you, especially this time of year, as we just came off the holidays. Some people are a little lackadaisical still. It's the 13th day of the year. What are we doing? Some people are going to blink and it's going to be February, whatever. If you have not found something that brings you back down to equilibrium or to back down to where your mental state is there, try the gym, try going on a grateful walk, try getting outside, getting some vitamin D. I know a lot of you guys are from the north right now, so the outside weather is probably not that great. But start a gym, start a hobby, whatever it could be. Get your mind on things that are positive in a really good way. Next question. How do you stay humble post-successes? To be honest with you, I think humble people are born that way. Just like I think if you are truly an asshole, I think you are born that way. And I think having people around you, both friends, family, peers, mentors you look up to, I think you need to have some people who can give you some tough love. Because if you have yes men or yes women around you all the time, and you're always being told how great you are, you're always being told, oh yeah, you're amazing or whatever, you're going to probably start to believe it. And then you're probably going to be going towards becoming an asshole, right? Let's all be honest. We've talked about that before in leadership and all that stuff. I think you have to have some friends. You have to have family. You have to have people who are not afraid to tell you, hey, Corey, you're doing this wrong. Hey, Corey, you need to go and you need to be nicer. Or, hey, Corey, why don't you get over yourself and do this, this, and that, right? Part of being a good leader, right, is being open to that criticism, but also being able to give that criticism, right? Depending on the personality types, whatever else. But the worst thing you can do is the worst thing in my opinion, no matter if you're in leadership or not in leadership, is let that success go to your head and then completely change you as a person, because you need to be grounded inside of yourself, and so that you can obviously encourage others around you. But if you're this type of person where it's, hey, look at me, I'm the best, and arrogant, nothing is going to turn off people more, especially in sales, because people will be able to feel that kind of inside of you. So I would tell you that if you are somebody who struggles being humbled, I think that's where great friends come in, right? And great family and great peers and all those things. So I hope that's some of you guys, because there's not very many worse traits, I think, than that, especially in business. As a leader, what advice would you give the first-time entrepreneurs that are looking to scale quickly? This is a really good question. It's something I've actually had a few different times. I think for us, if you are looking for advice, right, and if you are looking to truly scale your business quickly, we have to understand so many different parts of your business. Number one, what is your business? Number two, what support do you have? And number three, what does scaling truly look like, right? Maybe you have done $100,000 in sales, and Corey, I want to go and do 250,000. It's like, okay, well, hold on. What is your product? Can we scale it there? And what is the support that you have in order to be able to do those things? Because if you're going to scale, you have to have the ability to scale, right? You have to have the infrastructure in place. You have to have the checks and balances system. You have to have the support of leadership. There's all of these things, right? But if we're sitting here and we're saying, Corey, I want to go, same exact scenario, 100,000 in sales to 250, but it's only you wearing 10 different hats, no help, no support, no ability to spend money, that's where things become difficult, right? So you have to kind of look at yourself in the mirror and say, what is my situation? What is my opportunity? And do I have the support around it? But I think at the core of it, I think if you're really looking to scale, I think you have to look at your business or your leadership team or whatever it may be and say, okay, what do I do really well that makes the business the most money? What can I offload that so I can free up my time to go and make the most money? And who can we bring in either a supportive role, a sales role, or whatever, who can do, let's say, 80% of what you can do, right? Because, Barbara Corcoran has this amazing quote that says, great leadership is always about finding 80% of you. Because at 80% of you is usually 100% to most people, right? No one is ever going to work as hard as you. No one is ever going to have those things, which we understand that. But if you can have someone who can offload your time, if we can have someone who can maximize the things that you do really well, right? Money-producing activities is the number one thing entrepreneurs get distracted on when it comes to scaling a business. When, yes, those things are very important. Yes, that we have to have those. But if you don't have the back-end office to take orders or the inventory of doing things or the infrastructure to go out and, facilitate cutting those lawns or whatever it may be, then why are we scaling, right? We don't have that support here. So I think you have to look at inside of your business, how can we scale? What do we need to scale? And what does scaling truly look like? But those are all really good things I would think about is there. Let's see here. What's your favorite way to utilize AI right now, either in business or personal? Great question. We've talked about AI a ton on this channel. Obviously, the easy answer would be ChatGPT, right? I have the paid version. There's so many things you can do with it. But on real estate, I think we'll talk about real estate really quick because I think AI is kind of like new into real estate. And I think now people are trying to be like, oh, well, how do I use it? How do I not use it? Whatever. And, our brokerage, we just launched a CRM, which is a client relationship management system. Every single entrepreneur, you have to have one, if it's Salesforce or QuickBooks, whatever it may be. But we just launched one, and I'm not going to give you the name just in case there's competition on the line here. But there's essentially my whole goal with AI is how can we make not only my life easier, but also my agent's life easier. So, ChatGPT is great because I can ask it a prompt, hey, chat, write me an intro for my YouTube channel. Or, hey, ChatGPT, look at this email and give me a professional and polished response, right? Yes, you can do those things. But even more than that, there's other things we can do. So inside of our client relationship management system, our agents are going to be able to talk into it and say, hey, Lucy, create me a marketing graphic for my listing at 123 Main Street. And then within 10 seconds, boom, they create it. So not only did it make their life easier, but it also took workload off of my marketing team because now they're not having to recreate those things. But there's so many different facets of AI that you can use. It all depends on what your business is. If it's the AI integration in Canva, obviously ChatGPT, but there's so many other ones. So I would encourage you, based off of what you are doing for day to day, look at how you can incorporate it. And what's great about AI is you literally can just ask it. So one of the things I was actually just looking at is we're really looking at bringing a recruiting, like a recruiter in-house for our brokerage team. But in the meantime, obviously I have to have some type of recruiting system. So, I don't know everything. And it's funny that ChatGPT has kind of turned into the new Google. So I'll just ask ChatGPT and AI, give me 5 or 6 luxury real estate brokerage recruiting systems or software that other people are using. And it gives them to me. So I've kind of started to use AI as Google now. And I would encourage you to do that in your business too. It's actually been really nice, which is good. Let's go to the next question here. What is the one thing surprised you when starting a YouTube channel? I think for me, to be honest, the overwhelming support. I mean, we originally launched the YouTube channel with zero expectations, literally as a behind the scenes, hey, we made this gigantic transition from Engel and Volkers over to Christie's International Real Estate. I thought my friends and family would like to see the behind the scenes because there's no way they would believe me what we were going through, right? And if you would have told me 3.5 months ago, whenever we launched, that we would have over 10,000 subscribers and launched into a podcast and launched into a live stream on Tuesday nights, I would have never believed you, right? So I would say the support has been fantastic. So thank you guys for that. But also, I mean, media in general, I think right now it is so important to own your own media and own your own content, because content is always going to be king. But I never truly understood how the power of YouTube, because, I was always somebody who would go to YouTube and I would say, how do I change a tire, or how do I tie a tie, right? But people are actually going to like college on YouTube, or they're learning how to code, or they're learning on AI, or you guys are sitting with me on Tuesday nights learning about business, right? That is the strength of YouTube that I don't think I ever really understood whenever we started this channel. And so for me, I think what we're trying to constantly learn about is what systems or what process or what can we give our audience that you guys are going to be more engaged with, so that we can continue to grow the channel with you guys, but also just be more of value, because I never really understood the strength of YouTube, I think. And I think launching this channel and being on this channel and interacting with you guys and hearing your guys' DMs or your emails, whatever else, it's been fascinating to see the support, but also just kind of the request for information is the biggest thing for us. What are you trying to become better at personally right now? I think that's a really good question. I think for me personally, I am always trying to continuously be better with my time. I've always been somebody who has been great with time blocking, great with being on time, great with understanding how long time things, happen. But right now, I have never had more on my plate ever than right now. Obviously, on a day-to-day, I'm running a gigantic real estate firm with almost 150 agents, 16 full-time employees, 5 office locations. So, recruiting, retaining, networking, all of those things every single day. But also now I'm running a full-on marketing team, which we have 3 marketing people that run this channel with us, and content, and being able to push stuff out and ideas and sharing and traveling for podcasts and doing all these other things. So my time now has never been more valuable. And so I'm really trying to understand, how can I maximize my time? What things can I offload, right? Delegate to my team, but also where is my time best spent? And I think that's something that I'm constantly trying to be better at. And hopefully in 2026, I will constantly be better at it. But it's just something I'm having to navigate, because I've always been somebody who likes control. I've already been somebody who understands, I'll handle this, I'll do this, blah, 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 blah. And now it's time to really delegate a lot of those things so that I can be 2 places at one time, which is really important. All right, let's go into some more questions here. What if the owner's views for 2026 goals aren't realistic? Just wants to make more money fast, not necessarily seeing it as a long-term business model. Well, I think obviously, and we talked about this, a little bit at length just a few minutes ago. I think ownership, the way I believe in, and I heard Mel Robbins talk about this, and I told you guys I'm reading her book, Let Them. She always talks about leadership is the storm, right? The leadership has to lead the storm or lead the weather, right? We are the ones who dictate the temperature of our employees, of our leadership team. And if we tell them, for example, the whole entire analogy here is like, if I tell you that, if I'm the weatherman and I tell you it's 75 degrees outside, you go outside and it's 30 and you're dressed like it's 75, well, then you are now going to be upset with me. You don't have the tools, you don't have the clothes, you don't have all these things. Same exact thing for bad leadership, right? If you have an owner of your company who's saying, hey, we want to go out and do $500,000 in sales this year, but it's only you on the sales team. We have 1 or 2 people maybe that do the operational things. It's like, how is that possible, right? If it's not truly realistic because you don't have the bandwidth or the team or the sales team or whatever it could be, then I think you need to sit down with that owner, right? And you could say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, I understand you want to make a lot of money. So do I, right? But here's what we're facing. Here's the obstacles that are truly realistic that on a day-to-day level, we are not hitting, or they are hindering us from hitting our daily goals, right? And so I would start tracking those things. And I would say, hey, I was going to go and pitch this product or go on a sales team or pitch, but I couldn't because I had to go and do X, Y, and Z. But if we had someone doing X, Y, and Z, it would have freed up my time. So I would start tracking the things that you are facing, tracking the things that, I guess are holding you back in your opinion. 99% of businesses lacking of sales is because you either, number one, don't have a sales team, don't have a common goal you're selling or whatever, or you don't have a value proposition understood. So you have to understand, number one, do we have the sales team? Do we have the value proposition? And do we understand what we're selling? And if those things are not yes, yes, and yes, then you are never really going to achieve those goals. So I think you have to sit down with ownership. And that's where all of my owners on the chat right now and all of the managers on the chat right now, everybody's looking to you for what the forecast is going to be, right? That's what great ownership is going to be. That's what great leadership is. So if you find yourself in a situation where maybe the owner is not there or whatever else, you may need to kind of have some of those very difficult conversations with them and say, look, man, or lady, I know you want me to go out and sell this, but I'm telling you, we can't because I don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the people. We don't have, whatever it could be. And if they're still not listening, well, the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And so I'm not saying that you would need to leave your job by any means, but maybe it's time that your expectations either shift or it would be potentially time to move on to something that maybe give you more realistic expectations. So sometimes it's always hard to make that decision, but yeah. Also, a great point here, never forget where you come from, regardless of how successful you become. Absolutely. Great leaders will always remember the hard times they've come from. And that's why I will say, people are asking me a lot of emails and DM messages and stuff. Corey, how do I maintain, success over a period of time? I think it's how you were brought up, right? I mean, if you've already faced so much adversity in life, if you have mental toughness and you have all these things, it's obviously easier for you in business to navigate those things because it's not the first time you're facing it. Bo Blankenship and I on the podcast, we talked a lot about athletes and mentality that athletes have, or the ability to recruit athletes to businesses. One of the reasons why they love that is because mental toughness is what athletes are all about, right? So if you are somebody who owns a business or you're recruiting people or whatever else, I would tell you, look after athletes because they have already been through adversity in life, and I think that's really important. What's more important, the sale or the relationship? No question about it. It's always going to be the relationship. Always, always, always. Because without the relationship, you'll never have a repeat sale. If you take advantage of the customer and they feel slighted in any way, they will 100% go somewhere else for the next service. Think about every single time you guys, if you guys drive a Mercedes or a BMW or a Porsche or a really nice car, right? And you go into there to get an oil change. And they walk in and they know you by name. They give you, they have an amazing waiting room with, coffee and water and snacks and maybe even a chef there or whatever else. You have no problem being there 2 hours. You got no problem. You're having fun. You're having a good time, right? Expectations have been met. But same exact scenario, if you're over at the Jiffy Lube or whatever it may be, and it's taken 2 hours because expectations weren't there and the client customer service was not there, then of course you're going to be upset. Of course you're going to say, hey, man, what's taking so long? Blah, 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 blah. The client relationship has never been more important than 2026 because there's so much competition in every single industry. So if you treat somebody like guess where they're going to go? Your competition. So the client is always the most focused or the focal point of any business. Now, where a lot of people go wrong is they don't truly understand who their client is. This is, in my opinion, one of the number one mistakes people make. In my line of work, right, in real estate brokerages, my client is my agents Because without my agents, I have no brokerage. I have no business, right? Not to my agents, their customers are obviously their buyers and sellers, right? Because without their business of buying and selling, then that agent would have no livelihood. They would have no income, right? So, but I understand that, yes, the customers themselves are also my clients in a way, but I need to keep my agents happy. I need to keep them inside my doors. I need them to retain my ability to stay here, right? The happier the agents are, the more they're going to sell. So if you are somebody who, sells insurance or sells a product or whatever else, you have to first identify who my client is. And then we talk about client acquisition, right? How can I get more of them, right? Which we'll talk about next week and a lot more in depth, because we obviously want to focus on obtaining more clients, because that's obviously the fastest way to scale, right? But we have to understand identifying the client first in whatever industry you're in, because I bet you more than anything, like 65% of small businesses have no clue who the client is. Absolutely none. And I know the easy answer is, Corey, it's the person who buys the product. Not always. Not always. And some people are so linearly focused that they think, oh, I sell t-shirts, therefore my client is a person who walks into my store and buys my t-shirt. Well, why can't it be online sales? Why can't it be wholesalers? Why can't it be all these other clients that are just equally as important and probably better ROI, if we're being honest, but it's you recognizing who the client is. So long answer, but the easiest, quickest answer is, what's more important, the sale or the relationship? Always the relationship. Next question here. Outside of real estate, what business would you entertain starting or investing in? I think for me, obviously launching this media company is something that for me, I've been very passionate about. I've always loved being in front of the camera or being able to control content or being involved in creating things. So for me, I think launching this media team has been very rewarding. And so I'm very excited to see that. But really for me, I've always been passionate about business, and I love working with people. So really any business that I think would make sense, I would put time, energy, and effort in. But that's the biggest thing too, is like I get pitched businesses all the time, at least 2 or 3 a week, where, hey, what about this idea? Or, hey, what about this? Would you want to invest in this or whatever else? I hardly ever do, because 90% of the time, or I would say 95% of the time, I can always poke holes in their business plan. I can always poke holes in maybe who they are, right? So not every opportunity is a good opportunity. I promise you that. And that's sometimes a really hard lesson for young entrepreneurs, but also just people in business in general. Not every opportunity is always going to be the one. It doesn't always have to be the one, but it still needs to fit with your goals, your morals, your life compass in a way of what you're trying to accomplish and where you see yourself. How much of your time today is spent transacting versus managing operations, directing the brokerage? Almost every single moment of my entire day is spent managing and operating. And there's a lot of layers into that. I really don't, I don't sell anymore when it comes to actually like working with clients and stuff like that. I haven't sold in a few years now. And that's on purpose, because for me, if I'm recruiting an agent to come here, I want them to have the ability to talk to me about their business. And my job is to help build their business, not compete with them in business. And I think that's a really big thing too, especially in the real estate industry, but maybe potentially in mortgages or whatever else, is I'm not here to compete against you. I'm here to build you up so that you sell more, right? And so 99.99% of my entire day is managing, brokering, retaining, recruiting, new systems, new tools. How can I maximize the value not only of our real estate brokerage, but how can I maximize our real estate agents' business? And I think we do a pretty good job at that. Obviously, we're always trying to learn. We're always, on calls or networks or Zooms or whatever else, trying to learn the next thing, especially with, we talked about AI, obviously, here. But that's where I go there. You like my new mic flag? It looks out good. We just got these in, so it's a great touch. I'm glad we got it in tonight for you guys, and we're going to have a lot more things like that that's going to be branded. Next question. You mentioned before that you moved down to Florida and didn't know anyone. What did you do to build your network? Were there any groups you joined? Let us know your suggestions would be. Yeah, so obviously I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, thinking I'd be here for 2 weeks. Obviously, my agent at the time when I got cut by the Cincinnati Bengals was like, hey, I have a trainer in Jacksonville, Florida. Go down there and train. Let's get you out of this cold weather, whatever it may be. So I think I moved here thinking I would be here for 2 weeks, like I just said. I didn't know a single person, but I was able to, inside of that training group, meet 5 or 6 or 7 of kind of the similar age guys who were kind of in the same situation as me. And, not necessarily that they were clients of mine. I mean, actually 2 of them ended up being clients of mine now I'm thinking about it, which was great. But it was also just kind of being around like-minded individuals, right? I was already a little bit depressed, being told I wasn't good enough anymore, moving to a new city that I didn't know a single person in. All these obstacles were against me. So I kind of needed that safe haven of those friends that, I met through training. But I think for us, what I would tell you, if you find yourself in a similar situation where you're in a city or you're that you don't really know that many people, or maybe you're getting into an industry in a city you do know people, but maybe you don't know people who are your customers or whatever else. Obviously, there's tremendous referral meetups like BNI or Rotary Club or joining something inside the city. But I would tell you, and I would encourage you to definitely get involved. Right? I mean, because you're not going to meet people from your couch, right? And you're probably not going to meet people who are going to turn into clients from the bars or whatever else from there, right? You have to meet people in the way that you would want to transact with them. So, what I did is obviously I purchased online leads, but I also joined a lot of BNI groups. I was at every meeting. I did a lot of things in the Jacksonville Beach area, really trying to get my name out there. But I didn't really have any money to do that, so I had to do it through sweat equity, as I called it, right? I had to go to the meetings. I had to go to the gyms. I had to go to all these things and just be social. It's hard to be in sales if you're not social, right? And maybe that's something that you guys may struggle with, some of you, where, hey, Corey, I'm kind of getting out of my shell, or how can I overcome these different things that I don't really want to do, or whatever it may be. And I would encourage you to either talk to somebody about it, about how you can be better. There's tons of public speaking classes. There's a lot of different open clubs that you can go in and you can speak, once a week or whatever else, and just practice at it. One of the things I did is I just talked to myself in the mirror, right? It sounds crazy, but it actually helps, because for me, I wanted to see how my facial reactions reacted to this or reacted to that. But you have to meet people, right? And you have to join groups. You have to join BNIs or different things of that nature, as far as book clubs or whatever, because you have to be able to meet people in a way that you're going to get clients. What does a shop consist of, and how does it help agent achieve success? So in our brokerage, we call our offices shops. The whole entire mindset is, we're going to go above and beyond the build out. And if you guys have never seen our offices before, our shops before, we have tons of glass. It looks like a modern day, like a Gucci store or something that you want to walk into and you're going to be buying a product, because the whole entire philosophy change is we want our clients to walk in with the mindset of purchasing, not just always the mindset of meeting. And so our shops are our actual agents, where they are our brick and mortar locations where our agents work, but we have a ton of clients who come in every single day, either on buying presentations, listing presentations, whatever it may be. So just a different phrase for us. Did you have a mentor at your first real estate office? Did you work leads and open houses? Yeah, I mean, I actually had quite a few. I mean, there was a guy named DJ Shield who was a really big, he actually works for me today. He's been one of my very first agents ever. So he's been with me over 8 years now. Still really close with him. He was one of the very first big mega producers I ever met when I came to Jacksonville, Florida. And, we talked a little bit, I think it was last week, about if I was a young agent today, what would I do differently, or what would I encourage you to do? And I told you, seek out a top producer and follow them around. That's literally what I did with DJ. I saw he was doing, $18, $20 million in production, and I just wanted to go follow him around. And so I would literally go to lunch with him almost every single day. I'd go into his office every single day, ask him questions. Hey, why are you saying that to that customer? Hey, what are we doing with this, right? I would hear him on the phone of sales calls or leads, and I would just start writing notes, because the way that he could handle objections was fantastic. And I just naturally started to learn from him. And so we did a lot of business together. We obviously had a lot of leads that he had so much business that he couldn't work it all. So therefore, naturally, here I am trying to follow him around. He said, oh, by the way, do you want some buyer leads? And that's naturally how I got started into real estate, and how I became Rookie of the Year in my office. Like I told you guys before, within 6 months of start getting into real estate, I quit football full time and did real estate. And my first year, I think I sold like $8 or $9 million, which is insane in a new market, right? 99% of that was because I was putting in the time and work ethic, yes, but also I was kind of learning almost as a grad school level very, very quickly, because the things that DJ taught me and I would hear him say, like, you're never going to learn that in a real estate school. So no matter what you're in, if you're in mortgages or insurance or, whatever sales job you're in or you want to get into, I would encourage you to really look at your company and say, this person is amazing at it because they've been in it 10 years, 15 years, whatever else, or they have the sales production. Can I go and learn from this person? Can I go and follow this person around 2 days a week? Can I go and be surrounded by this person and just be in the car whenever they're handling objections from clients? Because I promise you, you will learn more from that person just listening than you're ever going to learn online or ever going to learn inside of a school, which is really, really, really important. So, and yeah, I mean, obviously I worked leads, I worked open houses. So young real estate agents, if you're on this channel, it is so important that you are not only involved in community, building customers, doing all those things, but also never forgetting really the old school way of doing real estate, which is being present, right? Open houses, postcards, social media, all of these things kind of acting as one thing together that will really lead you to client acquisition, which is important. So I know that we're up against time here. I got about 5 or 6 minutes left. I love the questions today. Thank you guys so much, obviously, for doing that. If you guys have last-minute questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But we just did our 2025 recap as a real estate brokerage. Our brokerage sold just over $971 million in production. And sounds great. It is great. I'm very proud. But we missed our 2024 sales numbers by about 16 or 17 million dollars. And I want to kind of close with understanding, mindset of that, because if you are somebody who has set goals in 2025 and maybe you didn't achieve them, or maybe you're in sales and you didn't have as great a year as you did last year, right? I can promise you the worst thing that you can do today is sulk on that and try to be down on yourself, or say, you know what, we didn't do this, therefore I'm taking the month of January off, or your mindset is so upset you didn't accomplish it, right? And I told our team this at our sales meeting last week. There's only 3 things you can do, or I should say there's only 3 things you should do. Learn from it, right? Why didn't we get there? What could we have done differently, right? React on whatever we learned, implementing those things because we're reacting to not getting there, and also let it go, right? You have to get over it, because there's nothing you're going to do today that is going to change the result you had last year. There's nothing you're going to do today that you are going to say, my numbers changed in 2025 because I did something in 2026. No. All we can do is react, we can learn, and we can let it go. Because like I told you guys before, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So if we didn't achieve our goals, or if you're somebody who did not achieve your sales goals in 2025, why did you not? Really look at yourself and say, how was my work ethic? What factors did I face, right? A lot of people will tell you that real estate market in 2025 was one of the hardest real estate markets that anybody's ever seen before since 2008 and 2009. Right? That's a factor. That's a realistic factor. What about personal? What did you go through, right? What did you overcome? But I can tell you in 2026, as we are only 13 days into this year, you have to overcome you have to let that go in 2025 and let 2026 be 2026. So I would encourage you guys that if you are somebody in leadership, encourage your team to understand there's nothing we can do about 2025 except learning from it, reacting from it, and then letting it go. Do not allow yourself to be one of those people that you're going to be so upset what you didn't do in 2025 that you're going to blink and it's going to be February and you're sitting there and saying, wait, what? I didn't even do X, Y, and Z, the things that I plan to do in 2026 because you were so off mentally. Do not let that be you, right? Do not let that be your team. Focus on what you can control. Focus on 2026 being the greatest year you're ever going to have. whatever sales industry you're in, whatever you do for work, 2026 is going to be our greatest year ever. I promise you that, if you continuously learn, react, and let 2025 go. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Like I said before, my name is Corey Hastings. We are here each and every Tuesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, directly on this channel. Before you leave, if you have not subscribed yet, please push that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week and everything else that we're going to be doing. I promise you guys it'll be on our channel soon, and we have so many amazing things coming. But thank you to coming tonight and on the Success Playbook.